people do say, any tips and advice? And I got two. One is a cheeky one, like, don't. Really, you don't want to get into this, etc. Which is obviously, I'm joking, But the other one is just simply start.
Welcome, Fedi Friends, to episode 49 of Fireside Fedi. I'm your host, Ozoned. Fireside Fedi is a show about folks within the Fediverse. If you're seeing this, you are in the Fediverse. My guest today is Evo Terra. Evo is an OG podcaster from way back in 2004. That's before time, I think. I can barely remember it. Co-authored Podcasting For Dummies back in 2005, ran Podiobooks.com from 2005 to 2015, Hall of Fame podcaster class of 22, professor of podcasting at ASU since 2025. And I'm going to be honest, I never listened to podcasts. I never knew Evo, but having researched him, I'm very nervous to talk to him. He is a titan in the industry. And Evo, thank you so much for joining me. I'm happy to have you. And how would you like to be addressed?
Great. I'm glad for being here. I like to be dressed. I like to be undressed. Oh, you said addressed. Yeah, you can call me Evo. That's perfectly fine. That's what everybody else calls me. And very, very happy that you asked me to be here on the show with you, Ozone.
Thank you. Wow. That's how nervous I am. My brain just went out the window when you gave me a compliment. So I have to know about the incredible story. How did you get to where you're at today? And don't skimp on the podcasting, because 2004.
Yeah.
That was were
very early
iPods
days.
even a thing?
Yeah. Yes, but I didn't own one. When I wrote Podcasting For Dummies, that first edition back in 2005, there's a section in the book where we talk about the origin of the word podcasting and all that stuff. And I said, look, it does not mean podcast. It's not an iPod. It's not broadcast to your iPod. That's not what it means. And in fact, I don't even own an iPod. So I had to wait until the book was published. And the day after the book was published, I went and bought me an iPod. But because I said in the book, I don't own an iPod. I wanted to make it real. So yeah. But yeah, we back then, I tell people the difference from the listener perspective isn't really that much different from what it was then to what it is now, other than the fact that it's gotten easier. In 2004, when I started, Apple Podcast didn't exist. iTunes didn't even have, this was before they had iTunes. I think it was 4.9 is when they introduced, they allowed podcasters to submit their shows into their directory. Wow. And I remember that because I turned in the manuscript, my half of the manuscript for Podcasting For Dummies in June. And then my wife and I and my son, we took a sort of vacation up to Vancouver, where our son was in a hockey training camp for goalies. And my wife and I just take it and enjoy the city. We used to go up every summer and do that with him. I get to the first day and I get an email from the editor, said, great. But did you hear what Apple just did? No. So I spent 3 days rewriting a good chunk of the book while I was supposed to be enjoying the lovely town of that, because we knew it was going to come out. I mean, literally, I turned it in and it was the next weekend is when Apple drops 4.7 or 4.9, whichever one it was. So
with the podcasting in there.
So I had to put in stuff about Apple because we knew they were going to be big. And surprise, here we are today, still number one. Yeah.
Well, how did you, even before that though, like how did you get into like, hey, the internet can connect people. I'm just going to start talking to the internet and people will listen and, oh yeah, it's a podcast.
Yeah. Didn't do it that way. That's the way most people get into podcasting. That is not how I got into podcasting. I was the co-host of an internet radio show. So pre-podcasting, it was a radio show that you would tune into with your computer.
Yeah.
And my partner and I would...
People really thought that was like the next big thing for radio, that it's been around, but it's never really exploded, right? Like it's there, but it's an ancillary service.
And now you get internet radio on your smart speakers, or you can tune in with your TV. There's all those things. But in 2002, when we started our internet radio show, I mean, that was how you'd listen to online content. You click a real player button that either played an audio file that was, or it actually pulled in a live stream. That was broadcast out over some special codec. I've even forgotten what it was all about. So we had been doing that for a couple of years when we found out about podcasting. Just come across, because I like to be on the cutting edge of technology a lot more back then than in today. And we already had most of the things done. Since we'd had our radio show, we had a website that had a blog on it. It wasn't WordPress. It was before that. It was called Movable Type, was the CMS that we were using back in the day. And we had an RSS feed. And we were already taking our show and burning it down to an MP2, either to send to the radio stations that were syndicating us, or just linking to that MP3 file on with that real player, like I mentioned earlier, as embedded in the blog post. So all it took me doing was a little bit of hacky work. I am no developer, but I'm a halfway decent hack, or at least I was back then. And I found a way to jerry rig the audio file into the RSS feed, and boom, we went live with something like 132 episodes for our automatically. So oh
my God,
it was crazy. It was I did it very backwards from a lot of people.
But you had and just to put this out there for those that are younger that don't know, real player he's not saying like a real player. It was a piece of software called Real Player that was looking to do all kinds of music and connect to radio, internet streaming radio. I never liked the player itself, but I love the idea.
It was buggy as hell, but it did function. God. Yeah, it did. But functionality is one thing. But once podcasting came around, then people started, more and more and more, and it grew so stinking fast over the years. I mean, I had the 40th podcast on the planet. They came out on October 19th. It was just a few days, October 14th, not October 19th. That's my son's birthday. October 14th, 2004 was when my show was live. And so that anniversary just passed, 21 years. It was wild. The fun part about this is, people said, wow. So, what were podcasts like back then? Well, like I said, they were pretty much the same. The benefit was, literally every single podcaster in October was listening to every other podcaster. We literally were listening to each other because he had 40 shows, right? That was it. That was really it. So that was kind of fun. We built a really tight community from the beginning.
It's interesting because it's one of those things where they'll come into a technology late and then they'll try and do it. And they're like, oh my God, the guys at the beginning had it so much easier. And it's like, yes, in the sense that there was a smaller population, a smaller community to pull from, but all of those guys worked their ass off to get all of that set up and running, right? Like that. Yeah. That was the reason there were only 40 is because people didn't know about it or couldn't really set it up.
We didn't have books that's why I wrote one of the first books about how to do this stuff. Right. And it's not like we were experts. We were experts in the fact that we had done it. And nobody else had. So that, they were first mover status. You get to write one of the first books about it. You can do that. And as far as having it easier, so from a production standpoint, when we started doing this, we didn't know about podcast hosting companies. We didn't. When I first started, we just put it up on a server on some I don't even know what it was called, HostGator or some, crappy server like that said they had unlimited bandwidth. And then you quickly realize, well, that was a lie. So we had Will Wheaton from Star Trek, the original series as one of our guests early in our podcast. And it took down everything. He was just because he's got a big audience. So someone in Germany, a friend of mine was kind enough to say, hey, I'll host it. I've got a pretty big pipe. And then we went and got an account like the next day to put it on actually a hosting server that had plenty of redundancy so we wouldn't bring it down. So this is before When I was doing it, it was before hosting companies were a thing. So we were hand coding our RSS feed.
Oh my God.
So all of that has changed big time. But really for me, while listening to the content was the same, getting to that listening point back then meant here is your RSS feed that you want to subscribe to. There were no directories, or there were. Podcast Alley was the directory, and it contained a link to the RSS feed. So you, the listener, would have to copy the RSS feed.
Yeah.
And now what are you going to do with it? Well, you had to go download a what we call a podcatcher.
Yeah.
You had to, it's a podcatcher that lived on your desktop. Because you didn't have a smartphone. You know why?
No.
There weren't smartphones. Yeah, Blackberries were then, those were available, but no. So you had to download on your computer, your desktop, your laptop, if you had one of those in 2004, you had to download the software first, and it was a podcatcher. And then you would put your RSS feeds into it, and it would check throughout the day or once a week or whatever. And then it would go download all of the MP3 files. And then you had to plug your MP3 player, your iRiver, which is what I had back in the day before I had an iPod. You had to plug in your media player and transfer those over, drag and drop from your desktop so you could have them on your player. Or if you were a trucker, I had a lot of trucker listeners because truckers loved us for some strange reason. They would burn them on CDs. And it would just have stacks and stacks and stacks of CDs. So they would put in their trucks as they're driving around listening to it.
That's amazing, because I guarantee then there is a past Evo voice. You have a ghost of your past floating out there like in someone's CD wallet or something.
Yeah, because I've made sure all those original episodes are deleted off the internet. But yes, someone has definitely.
Amazing.
Someone has saved it. Yeah,
but crazy. It's interesting to think about, though, because not only is it difficult to get in at that time, but it required a certain technical skill to even listen to them.
Oh yeah.
But
we referred to it back then as the grandmother test, and we realized that podcasting was not meeting the grandmother test. Like, hey, grandma, listen to this show. She couldn't do it. I argue they still haven't. We're still not there. If grandma is savvy and she has, a smartphone and she has, Apple Podcasts or whatever else built to it, it is easier for her. But still, to me, we'll get to the grandmother test fixed. We'll pass the grandmother test when I want to listen to a podcast is the same thing as turning on your TV. You want to watch a show, or I want to turn on my radio or turn on my stereo and listen to music. It needs to be that intuitive, and it is still seamless. Not. It is still not
yet, because it's going through a renaissance. I keep hearing so many people talk about how podcast is blowing up because folks, especially like during COVID, right? You want that human connection, and a lot of people can listen while going and doing something else, but you feel like you know those people and you get to know them and understand them and like them. And that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you hit 2 points. You hit 2 points there that are worth chatting about. One is the podcasting is perfect for people who are doing something else. I can't watch a video while I am driving to work. But I can certainly listen to a podcast and when I'm listening. It is the perfect thing to do when your brain is doing something that it doesn't need your full attention. Now, there are people that I know who listen to podcasts while they're doing like work, and I don't get that at all.
I can't.
I either stop. I have no idea what was being said, or I have no idea what I just typed. So I can't do that. There are weirdos that do that, but can I do the laundry or the dishes? Absolutely. That's a great time to listen. Throw the noise canceling headphones on and just go to town. I think that's wonderful. The second thing you mentioned was to develop this relationship. So it's called a parasocial relationship, and some people have an issue with it. But I think it's really what made podcasting great. It was one of the first mediums. Like we had blogging that just came in, maybe 5 or so years, or maybe a little bit longer than that, 7 years before that. And we were finally, for the first time, reading someone's unfiltered thoughts, for good or for ill, oftentimes for ill, right? Just this is what they think. And it was great. And then suddenly podcasting says, now we can take that same concept, but I can listen to somebody. Everything else you could listen to at the time. Nothing was personal. You were listening to your radio. Yep. That's impersonal. That is a broadcast one-to-many situation. You could listen to audiobooks on tape. back in the day or those sorts of things. But again, that wasn't a connection with the real person. Suddenly with a podcast, when these podcasts come around, they're one-to-one. No one, asterisk, almost no one was listening to a podcast through a speaker. They're always listening through earbuds or a headphone, right? Because it's that intimate feeling, and you get to hear directly from the person that is giving the content to you. And quite often it's raw and unfiltered and maybe not the most perfect thing in the world, but sometimes they certainly were. But yeah, it is. We have a joke in podcasting, and you need to, since I see that you are drinking, you have to be ready for this one. When the following phrase is said, everybody must take a drink. And that is, podcasting is an intimate medium. Drink, because that's said at conferences all the time, and somebody in their audience, usually me, will shout "drink" when I hear it, because it's become the joke. So yes,
so you mentioned that podcasting is a parasocial relationship.
Yeah,
and folks, and I think I'm not really heard of that, but it's one-sided essentially, but it is, you feel that you're closer to the person, right? We are going straight into your brain, right into your ears. And the thing that caught me though, was you said is some people have issues with that. So I'll say it this way, and I don't know if you mean it this way, but
okay.
I'm an internet nerd. I never wanted to be on video. I never wanted to do podcasting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I love the cutting edge tech stuff, but I feel that there's a point where I can make a difference and I want to do that. And I'm massively humbled and blown away by the folks that are even listening, let alone those are like, yeah, I've heard about your podcast. And then I had someone at a conference recently is like, yeah, I want to meet you. I appreciate it. And it's like, so in that instance, I have not learned how to kind of accept that. It's so foreign to me.
Yeah.
So by parasocial and people have problems with it, is that what you're referring to? Or are you referring to the other side where people, go ahead.
Well, let me expand upon it. So, there are lots of types of people out there, right? And the great thing about podcasting, like a lot of other new media stuff that's happening, even, live stream videos like we're doing here, it does allow people who aren't normally crazy extroverted people to do something, right? Because it's safe. Yeah, I'm looking at this camera.
Yes.
But it's still, I don't want to stand up on stage. Some people think I actually love standing on stages, but I know I'm the weirdo. I'm the weirdo. You give me a microphone and an audience, I will entertain. But most people aren't that way, right? And so that's fine. But the problem is, then you also get a bunch of people on the other end who are also a little antisocial and not really picking up on the appropriate clues and various stuff. They will assume, those listeners will assume that they really know this person. And there have been people that I know who are podcasters who have had less than good things happen when their fans show up and make a lot of assumptions. Now, I have never had a problem with it because I'm impossible to offend. But for others, they feel like they're really vulnerable and they've done this and the person's listening and they make assumptions. And then it gets kind of awkward because the fans suddenly they think they're your best friend. And then when you're trying to go out and hang out with your friends, they're in there. And so
they feel that they know you intimately and you have no idea who this person is, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
That's interesting. How do you go from a radio station to building your own RSS to, hey, I'm going to write a book? Like, how does that even work? Like, did someone approach you or did you go to, because for those that, again, for the younger, if there are any younger audience here, there were a whole slew of help books, technologically wise, that the company thought it was a good idea to call their audience dummies. But it worked, right? Like we understood that I don't know this thing, so let me get this book. And then there was the idiot's guide to things, like taking on that riff. And
I knew who wrote that one. So yeah, that was Murr, and she wrote one of the idiot's guides. So yes. So I will tell you the exact story of how it happens because it's kind of weird. So that first internet radio show, which became a podcast that we were doing, which then became a podcast network, we were interviewing science fiction authors. Some big ones, like I have interviewed Arthur C. Clarke. I have interviewed Ray Bradbury, and people that you cannot interview now because they're dead, and a lot of other famous people. But also more of them were what I like to call the underpublished author, because back in 2002 and 2004, there was no such thing as an Amazon Kindle. Amazon sold physical books. No one was publishing ebooks. It was a very, very small group because the ebook readers cost a fortune and they didn't have it figured out. And so if you were an author, your only options were go to one of the big 5 publishers and hope that you're the 0.00001% or whatever it is that gets chosen. That's great. Or you go to a self-publishing, and there's a subset of self-publishing which is called vanity press. And these are companies that basically prey on authors. They say, hey, you wrote a book. We will help you. We'll create the cover. We'll get you an editor. We'll do all these things. And it's only going to cost you $50,000. I'm making up a number. I don't know what it costs. That's too much, right? And they would, you had to have a minimum number of books that you had to order, like around 500 copies. And then it was up to you to go sell them. So we call that vanity press, as opposed to print on demand, which was another technology at the time, which is, you could go to these various services and say, yes, I would like this book. And it would literally print it and then ship to you on fine, which is fine. We still have that today.
Yes. Right.
So this is the world that authors lived in at that time. So when we started our podcast, everybody loved coming on our podcast because we were talking, science. The only reason you would listen to our show is to hear me and my partner, Mike, talk to these science fiction authors. And so they would sell a few books this way. All right. So I became friends with a lot of authors, still am today. And it was, awesome. I think it was about, I don't know, when was it? Sometime around now. I think it was because we had just started podcasting, right? I think sometime at the end of October, early November, I started contacting these authors that I knew. And I said, there's something going on with this podcasting that I don't know what the connection is for authors, but it sure seems like there's some democratized do-it-yourself stuff that you guys could get into. And I didn't have an idea what it was, other than there's a podcast. Well, then what happened? A few weeks later.
Well, it was organically receptive, right? There was no one pushing these things, but people are just coming to you. They just want to hear you and these authors. And that's a new emerging market. And that's
totally
okay.
Was. Yeah. So I went to these authors and said, you should do something about it. And then a few weeks later, 3 different people during the exact same week called me with the same idea. These are authors. They said, what if they said, would narrate my book that has already been published and it's already gone through its major sales cycle. What if I narrated that into a microphone and we push that as a podcast episode every week until the book is finished? And I said, that's genius. Let's do it. And they all said, cool, but I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, I do. So, what I need you to do is record it, give it to me, and I'll bit the RSS feed up and did it. So we had 3 of these books out there at the time. That then that became a new website called podiobooks.com that I created, as you mentioned previously. And we had 700 titles up there. Same thing. We did all the hosting, but it was up to the author to do all of the work. Okay. That's leading into how I got to write the book. One of those first 3 authors, a friend of mine named T. Morris, he called me one day as I'm driving home and he says, hey, I've been asked to write a book on how to podcast. And I said, that's cool, T. Why are they calling you? Because you don't know how to podcast. That's what you use me for. I said, I know. That's why I'm calling. I thought we could team up on it. And I went, yeah, but a book on how to podcast? I mean, you're an FTP, create the RSS feed.
Yeah.
Maybe a pamphlet, we could do that. But I mean, is it really any? And I'm not kidding about any of this. And I said, well, find out how many how pages they're looking for something. He said, all right, I'll call you right back. Click, hangs up. Because the reason T is calling me for this, he was an author. He is still an author. And also he had written some nonfiction books as well. I think some video stuff and various things back in the day. Now he writes exclusively in the fiction world. So he had an agent and his agent contacted him and said, we want to write this book. So I said, how many pages? He hangs up, calls the agent back. calls me 5 minutes later, and he said, 266 pages. And I said, that's an oddly specific number.
Yeah. Yes.
What is this? And he said, oh, hang on. Hung up, call his agent back to find out what we were writing other than a book about podcasting. And he calls back. He says, yeah, it's a For Dummies book. And I said, tell him we'll do it. That was it. Because, you know, at the time, you already mentioned it. There was a whole series of these things. If you wanted to learn how to do something, you went to your local Barnes and Noble and you rolled through the how-to section. And if there's a black and yellow book title, it says For Dummies on it, it's going to do one of two things. Either it's going to offend you and you're going to run away because you're not a dummy, or it says, oh shit, I know these books are solid. Boom. And it sells more than anything else. They sell more than anybody else does. So that's how I got to ask to write the book, because I knew it was a For Dummies title and I knew I didn't have to do any marketing. It would just sell itself. So, yeah.
That's so, but it's interesting too, because you never aimed to do this, right? But as you said earlier, because you had the experience of doing it, you were the expert, which is, it's incredible that you say that, because literally the person I just had on earlier this week, Jenny, she makes not safe for work art, and all of these platforms are like kicking her off because you're too risky for drawing nipples and things like that. And it's like, and that's what I told her was, you are now an expert. She's like, I'm not an expert. It's like, yes, you are. You've been on all these platforms. You looked at all these terms of service, which I don't look at. You know, I mean, most people don't look at.
Yeah.
That's an expert. And it's incredible, because I'm quickly finding out too that, like, I just went to a conference earlier and I'm going up to everyone's like, have you heard of the Fediverse? Have you heard of the Fediverse? I'm that weirdo.
Right on.
And I'm quickly becoming a generalized expert in just something that I like to do. That's it.
Yeah. That's great. No, we need that. I mean, I'm a part of the Fediverse. I've been active on it for years. And then 2 or 3 years ago, when, you know, the meltdown happened on the Nazi platform, when I went all in, the Nazi bar was taken over, the shitter, as I like to call it. I've been really all in on it since then. But yeah, it's good. We need people out there pushing for this. So yeah, let's democratize everything.
That's what I'm trying to do. At least get it on people's radar, right? How do you see any? Well, before I ask that, how did you find the Fediverse then? You are you like the cutting edge technology. How long have you been on it? How long have you followed it?
I had my first account. It's probably a solid 6 years ago was when I first discovered it, if not longer than that, like very, very early days. It was Mastodon.social and a handful of others. There is an instance called podcastindex.social. And those are, it started by one of the guys who started podcasting back in 2004, Adam Curry, MTV VJ fame, who is he is the godfather of podcasting, we call him, because he and Dave Weiner were the first ones to ever do it in 2004. But now he has this, there's more to Podcast Index than that, but they built a Mastodon instance and released that one. So I had an account, it was my second account over there, for probably a year or so before the Mastodon really took off.
Did you understand it when you first started?
No, I mean, yes and no. I understood Mastodon. I did not understand the Fediverse.
Right. And that's one of the things that people talk about. It's like, I don't understand it at first. Guess what? I didn't understand it at first. I created a account on Mastodon.social and then Linux.rocks and then a couple other places. And I'm like, cause I want to grab my name on all these. I'm like, oh wait, holy shit. You only need one. It all connects.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're Seth. Seth has like 1,000, but he's don't do it his way. Weirdo. I think he was on your show not long ago. You're exactly right. It's kind of cool. So yeah, I get the Fediverse now. It's still way early. It's not going to pass a lot of the easy test, which is why, still centralized platforms, like Blue Sky, even though guess what? The person that runs it is not a nice person. And it is, who knows what random whims that they're going to have to shut things down again. but I still see why it's popular, right? I mean, I get it. If you need that, you need to be where people are, I suppose, if you feel that way. I no longer feel that way. I don't care. Cory Doctorow had a good comment years ago, and he said, I refuse to spend any time or energy building a presence in somebody else's world. So now it's all about things I can control completely.
And that's the thing that's always amazed me is, people build full businesses. Their livelihood is attached to these things, but they won't take steps to actually invest in themselves in some other platform just in case. Right.
And one that you control. Yeah.
Right. And that just in case has happened numerous times.
And it's going to keep happening. Yeah. I mean, at a minimum, the smartest people I knew who were doing this, who actually had something really to say. I was just on the shit post, to be really honest with you. It was really the whole reason I was doing it. I wasn't really using it professionally. I mean, I used to run a digital advertising agency, and we ran social for a lot of our clients. And luckily, I never had to do any of that because gross. But still, the smartest people I know that when these platforms collapsed, they already had pushed their people somewhere else. They developed a mailing list. They had a blog people were reading, and they're pushing posts over, so that for those that had divested themselves and also really pushed people to a platform that creator controls, when the next thing breaks, it won't be a problem for them because they can just simply say, hey, guess what? I am no longer on that. I'm over here now. Follow me. And, a lot of people will.
Wow. Yeah. And it's interesting that people are like, all of a sudden refinding these technologies that have been there for a long time. RSS, mailing lists. And it's interesting because even for the technical minded folks that grew up with the early internet, something like the Fediverse, which is literally how the internet was designed so that it interoperates with everything,
that's right,
is so foreign that you have to take a step back, see how it works. Oh, okay. It just all interconnects. That's amazing. Yeah. And
no, Facebook and Twitter made us stupid, right? I mean, it really did. It really lowered the overall intelligence, not just because these are great platforms for disinformation, but it was so easy. I even know, I remember saying these words to people back in 2010, like, I don't know that you need a website anymore. Maybe you just have your social presence and that's going to be there. I mean, that's something I said out loud, which is dumb. Which is totally dumb. And I knew it should have been dumb at the time, but for whatever reason, it didn't hit me. So, made us dumb.
Yeah. So do you still do podcasting? What kind of, what would you recommend to someone just starting in podcasting as a completely, not selfish reason of me asking live?
Which I get a lot, I people do say, any tips and advice. And I got two. One is a cheeky one, like, don't really, you don't want to get into this, etc. Which is obviously I'm joking, but the other one is just simply start. The real challenge most people face is I have seen it so many times where a creator says, I'm going to start a podcast, but I want to make sure I do it right. And they spend months, if not years, where I just saw a post on Reddit from somebody who has been working on his show for 12 years, and he just released his first episode.
What do you work? I mean,
there was no reason for that. I help organize a local group here in Phoenix called the Phoenix Podcast Club. It's just a social event where podcasters hang out, but we get a lot of newbies that come in and then ask questions. And so we had this one person who had been coming for probably, 8 months. And every time she still hadn't released her episode. Every time. So finally on the 8th month, I said, come to my house because you live like a block and a half from me. Yeah. Come here. I will get you over the hump because you've got some audio recorded. Let's get this thing out. And I said, it won't take me an hour. Well, when we get this thing done and get uploaded, I was very wrong. We sat there for 2 hours and her thought and it was so alien to the way I think about things. It was like, we're not gonna it was just not gonna be it. So some people get inside of their head. Some people overcomplicate it. They don't want to do just to get something done, right? They've got this vision in their head, and it becomes a very, very large thing to do. But practical tip. If I give you something really practical to do that I always tell people is who are brand new in this, getting to podcasting, is equipment doesn't matter, except get a good pair of headphones. Like these right here that I'm wearing.
Yeah.
These are the Sony MDR 7506s, which is the best one to get. I shouldn't say it's the best one to get. They're very, very good. They're studio monitors. They play the sound exactly as it is going into the microphone, into my ears. They're not any beats, which add so much bass to it. Get a good pair of closed ear headphones. Okay. Because you need to be able to hear all your lip smacks and other little problems that people hate, and you can't hear them on earbuds. And you certainly can't hear them editing on the speaker from coming out of the back of your computer. So let's not do that. So, the only thing I care about that you buy, the first thing you should buy is go spend $70, $80 on a pair of headphones.
Oh, I mean, I have, where are they? I have some, what is it?
Audio Technicas. Those are good.
Audio Technicas. They're super nice. But I try not to wear them for this because I move around a lot.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't do much video. When I do video work with it, I put on some like bone conducting things.
Those are cool.
Those I put on when I got to do a video thing. But no, this is what I wear these things, 6 hours a day.
Sometimes I just put my headphones on because I'm so used to it. My wife walks in, she's like, "Can you hear me?" I was like, "I don't have anything playing. It just feels right to have them on."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my wife can ask me stuff all the time because it's like, I can still hear. They're not noise canceling and whatnot like that. But yeah, you asked what I'm doing in the podcasting world. So I run a podcast consultancy. All of my clients are businesses. I resisted the temptation to hang my shingle out as a podcast editor or a podcast coach for the longest time because I felt bad charging people money to help them make a show where them and their two other buddies talk about D&D in the basement. Feels like I shouldn't be charging them money. So I give a lot of free advice to those people. But businesses, on the other hand, they've got a business goal they're trying to achieve and also have a budget. Yay. And again, I worked in advertising for 2 decades, so I'm used to doing this. So yes, all of my clients are now businesses, and we basically do everything for them with the exception of talking into a microphone. So I myself do not have an active live podcast, but I've got a production company, and I have a couple of folks that hire me to do interviews for their shows. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, so going back to the first piece of hardware you buy, so I had a much worse mic, and everyone was telling me the most important thing in podcasting is having a good mic so that people can hear you. And you're kind of on the other end. No, you need to be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah. Let me answer the microphone question for you. The best microphone you can use when you're starting out as a podcaster is the one you have and know how to use properly and know how to use properly. That is the important piece. I see people going out and buying a Yeti, the Yeti microphones, which are fine. I know plenty of people who can make a really good sounding thing out of one of those Blue Yeti microphones. Yeah. But you have to know how to use it. Most people don't know how to talk, where to talk into it. They talk into the top of it, and it's a side address microphone.
Right.
Yeah. Or they've got it set on the omni-channel direction, so you get all the sounds around as opposed to the cardioid, right? So I really don't care. For my clients, I actually do care. For my clients, I give them a very specific set of equipment to buy. Mm-hmm. And if they have something else, fine. But if they say, I don't have anything, I just give them a list. Here is the microphone you need to buy. Here's the interface you need to buy. Do that, and then talk to me again.
Yeah,
so you've got some sort of a Shure, looks like a 58 with a black head on.
Yeah, 5800, XM 5800. And and again, like you said, I just started, and then I'm asking for people to give me feedback. And a couple of the guys are audiophiles, and I'm like, I don't. I have a budget of less than $100. They're like, no, the mic's $25.
Yeah.
And it sounds way better than the, wireless head mic that I had before.
Yeah. Those are terrible. Right. But you don't need to buy this. I need to buy this because this is a $400 Shure SM7, right? Which is top of the line. That's what most podcasters use. Not all. There are other great mics out there, but it's $500 for this microphone. But when it's this is literally my job. So I want to make sure the things that I do have to record are top notch. So I've invested, I don't know, and I have you can't really see it because I can't pan it, but this panel back here behind this is covering a closet. I'm a big fan of getting your audio space treated so that it doesn't do that. This is the special thing called an isole, like isolate. It's a giant, huge, heavy curtain that hangs up that just eats sound. And then around my office here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different 2 foot wide by 4 foot tall audio mute, they're called, panels. They're big, thick things. So when you come into the office, this is the quietest room in the house. Not because it stops sound from coming in, but because it eats sound. So a lot of people have to worry about mic reflections bouncing back and forth. I don't, because I have these things all around. It just eats up all the sound, which is kind of nice.
Wow. Yeah. So let's because you amaze me because you're just so knowledgeable and all about this. And again, it's one of those where you never feel like an expert, right? And I feel like
Imposter
I'm just an
syndrome.
amateur.
Yeah, imposter syndrome for everybody.
Yeah,
everybody has it.
And the way you get there is just by doing it, right? And that's Who was your favorite person to interview when you had your podcast?
Oh my gosh.
I know it's impossible to ask, but
I mean, and again, that do I work about that? And I probably will. I'll stick with the early days, because here's a funny thing about me. I don't think I'm actually a good interviewer.
We have something in common.
I don't. Yeah. My job had when we were doing my partner and I were doing the podcast, 20 years ago, interviewing science fiction people. My job was to run the show. Not a showrunner, which is a different thing, but my job was to figure out where that's the end. So I'm signaling him with, as we're in the studio to run, because he's running the audio board, right? Signaling him for cues and cuts. And so I'm doing that. I'm thinking about the flow of the conversation. So I'm always thinking about my next question, which is not what you're supposed to do as an interviewer, because you need to be in the moment, with the people that you're doing it. So I've just never really gotten out of that one. How about if I tell you that the one that got away?
Okay. Yeah.
You're familiar with the Game of Thrones television series.
Of course. Yeah.
Which of course was a series of books written by George R.R. Martin prior to that. Prior to there being a TV show, we were scheduled to talk to George R.R. Martin. Again, I mentioned we have talked to Sir Arthur C. Clarke, Ray Bradbury, and a whole slew of other people. Peter Mayhew, who was Chewbacca in the original. He came to our studio and recorded with us. And the guy's huge. Anyhow, set to interview George R.R. Martin. And we go to make the connection. These are early days. So we had a separate audio card that had a phone system attached to it so that we could dial out and get the calls inside of this. Oh, we're talking way back, right?
I mean, you think about it now, it's like we're just on a Jitsi meet. Can't you just always do that? It's like, no, we had to use phone lines.
Yeah, Skype was the coolest thing back then, right? And he couldn't even use Skype because George R.R. Martin hadn't been doing that kind of stuff, right? He's about as technophobic as possible. So we go to make the call and the phone won't dial. The system will not dial. And also we've noticed that we're not getting any emails because the internet is dead. Someone rammed their pickup truck into the little pylon at the neighborhood and took out internet connectivity. So 2 hours later, we get connectivity back, and there is an email from George, and another email from George, and another, and another, and another. Like every 5 minutes, he was firing off an email, getting madder and madder and madder at us. So I don't want to do the interview anymore. But I don't know what the hell's happened. Whatever. So, dude, it's in the picture. A truck literally ran over this thing. Never heard from him again. So nope. So I am. George R.R. Martin will not chat with me. But one of the best people to talk to, I'll give you this one, and he's on the Fediverse as well. If you can get him to say yes, which is good luck, he's very, very busy. I mentioned his name earlier, Cory Doctorow.
Oh, I already talked to him.
Oh, you talked to Cory. Great. Corey's
Yeah.
great. I love Corey.
So no, let me rephrase. He was on the show.
Mhm.
I was a bumbling idiot. And he, of course, was just amazing talking. Like
Corey's wicked smart. You know, we interviewed him
incredible.
way early on when his first books were being released. And they released everything for free as a PDF if you want to get it. Really, knowing Corey for as many years as I have has really taught me. He kind of shaped the way I think about things. And it's just just a smart thinker about containers versus content and everything. And he's all in on the Fediverse, obviously. So yeah, super smart guy. And I've interviewed Corey, I don't know how many times on the show. We've sat on panels together at conferences. So yeah, he's a really, really, really great guy.
Well, and it's like, you know, that these are people, right? But you just, when you're in your position, it's like, at least for me, I'm a nobody. Like, if someone's like, oh, you should reach out to Cory Doctorow. Yeah. Okay. I'll reach out to Cory Doctorow. And I did. And he was just like instantly like, yes.
Yeah.
People want to talk.
I think that's something that a lot of new podcasters today need to realize. And that is, if you would like to interview someone, just ask them.
Ask.
I have only been turned down a handful of times. And that's not because I'm throwing out my name and things like that, but just ask. And I mean, look, I'm not going to see if I can, let's talk to George Clooney. Okay. That's probably not going to work, but people that don't have agents in front of them, certainly you can talk to, but it doesn't hurt. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
All they can do is say no. And you'd be surprised how many times they say yes.
It is flabbergasted me. It is because we all want that connection, right? We all want to talk to others that are interested in talking to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
exactly.
All right. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, I wanted to ask you one more question before we moved on. Sure. Edited content versus just pure raw, all the blemishes content.
Yeah.
What do you like the best?
So I always tell people there is no one right way to make a podcast, but there are a lot of wrong ways. And I am a fan of editing, but also I need to back up a minute here. So I've published 5 or 6 books, I think, and not a one of them went out as my first draft stapled together and sitting on a bookshelf somewhere, hoping somebody might buy it. Nope. They all had an editor. So somebody went through and did a nice cleanup, because turns out I'm not perfect when I do anything. And I've got a great editor. You should have her on. Karen Conlon is her name. She's on the Fediverse. I'll send you her information. She's lovely.
Please do.
Grammar Geddon. I forget what her handle is, but she's my editor and went through and she, has corrected my bad ways. So I do that, right? And all these, I used to give a lot of presentations. I used to go, it was a speaker, keynote speaker around all over the world. And I polish those things to the ninth. I mean, just they're perfect.
Interesting.
I mean, they're just nailed in tight. I leave room for, spontaneity, obviously, but they're very, very polished. And they're what happened there? Is that you or is that me?
I don't know. Blipped. We're good.
Okay, we're good. When I watch a TV show, I want to watch a well-edited show. When I read an ebook that I download, I don't want the font to be,
you're right,
Comic Sans,
or misspellings
light
everywhere
gray on a white background, right? So I think, me personally, you will never hear a raw, unedited show from me. I will always edit. I don't edit a lot sometimes. Sometimes it's just a little bit here and there, but everything can be made better with editing, in my opinion. That there are the what I used to call the catch and release, or the release and record, or I'm sorry, record and release. There we go. Record and release podcasters. And there's still a lot of those out there that literally talk like you and I are talking right now, and then they just push a button and it goes up and live. And there is an audience for that. I am not that audience for that, because I want something to be cleaned up. And just getting rid of all the imperfections and things like that. But that's my preference.
Yeah, I'm especially watching my kids consume things like YouTube. We have this idea, especially with YouTube, where someone just has this idea and they make it. I like the engineers or the people that show that like, I'm a human. I messed up. I had to iterate 26 times to get here. And outside of like technical difficulties where the stream dies and I have to restart everything. Yeah, I don't really edit, and I don't even know how to edit. I just like talking to people. And I think it feels more natural when it's not. I'll take out that intro in the beginning and I'll do, I had some friends give me some templates and things, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not also a podcast consumer though.
Well, that's the challenge, right? So I have a couple of new clients that are working with my production company right now. They run businesses, and they are doing this show that's all about how to make your business grow faster. Things I don't care about, but they certainly do, right? So that is what they do. They're not podcast listeners either. So when they came to me, I got referred to them, they had a very weird idea in their head about what they want to do. For them, it was hey, we just want to go live and talk because we do this kind of stuff all the time, and the stuff that we say is great. So I said, okay, cool, let's try that. So I recorded them for like 30 minutes talking back and forth for themselves. Actually tried to record for 30 minutes. That was the target number was 30 minutes. An hour and a half later, they're nowhere near the outline, the bullet points they put together. An hour and a half later, they go back and they go, oh, yeah. Now we understand. Yeah, because you're trying to get out tight business advice. No one wants to take an hour and a half to hear something that I can edit down to 20 minutes. Right. So, we edit everything.
Different audience.
And sometimes it's a light edit. And we don't do, my team, when we edit something, we're looking for full-on mistakes, repeated lines, stumbles, those sorts of things. We're looking for the audio imperfections. But before it goes live, we give it to our clients and we say, this is it. And we give them a transcript. We call it a paper edit. So they don't have to listen to it. They can just read it. This is great. They read out all the content. And I say, your job is to take a highlight marker and say, what do you want to get rid of? You're not looking at what you're trying to fix. And I said, if you see something that's like you said the word I a couple of times, don't correct that. I want you taking out entire sentences. I want entire chunks taken out of it. And so we let them do the content edits because we don't have the institutional knowledge that they do. And then our job is to say, great, thank you very much. Now let's make this thing perfect so that it's nice and smooth and easy. Their microphones are balanced. Everybody sounds roughly, I don't want to say the same. We're not trying to do that. We want people to have their own distinct, unique voices and things. But look, everything can be improved with editing. So let's just do that.
You're targeting different audiences then.
Exactly right.
You said, yeah.
I mean, live radio is unedited. That's why it's called live. Live streams are unedited. Again, they're live. When you're not doing things live, I mean, I love live. I think live is great. You can listen to live things either. But when you push that as a podcast, you can clean it up. It won't take that long.
Well, now for the real reason I asked Evo here is to give him the opportunity to win a prize of a lifetime.
Oh boy.
Our prize today is a copy of Writing Podcasting for Dummies, signed by the original author. Thought about a signed copy of Podcasting for Dummies, but who really writes that stuff anyway? Are you ready for the quiz, Evo?
Let's do it.
All right. Favorite movie and why is it Spaceballs?
Mel Brooks are great movies. Do not get me wrong. I love all of them, but I would much prefer either Blazing Saddles or Young Frankenstein. Those are my two go-to Mel Brooks movies.
There's something about Young Frankenstein that I can never get into. I've tried so many times. Love Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles is so good.
I watched the live theatrical version here in town about 10 years ago. Mel Brooks came through and they did a live version of Young Frankenstein. And it was actually produced by Mel. It was fantastic. Really, really good.
So is that actually your favorite movie then? Or favorite movies?
It depends on what kind of you're talking about. I watch Mel Brooks movies, but usually I watch both of those at least once a year. I'm also a big Wes Anderson fan. I've been lately on a big horror franchise kick where I will watch the entire franchise. Like right now I'm one more to go in the Conjuring franchise. There are 9 Conjuring movies.
That sounds so familiar.
Yeah, it's a horror movie. So So those are the kind of things that I am into. But my all-time favorite movie, I had to pick one movie that I can watch over and over and over again, and I do this for a fact, Forbidden Planet. Absolutely love Forbidden Planet. That's the movie that I watch when I'm not feeling well. So I know, but the wife comes home and I've got Forbidden Planet on. She's like, "Do I need to bring you some soup?" Because that's what I watch when I'm not feeling well. So
Forbidden Planet is one of those movies I didn't know about until like about a year or so ago. I'm like, I just want to binge on cheesy, old timey sci-fi movies, and someone recommended Forbidden Planet. I'm like, Leslie Nielsen is in this, and he's amazing, and I can literally see any sci-fi after this take something from this.
Oh, I mean, that's where Star Trek came from. And then Roddenberry says that. Oh, it was because of Forbidden Planet. Yeah, I just wanted to take that and make this crew going on it. But he didn't have Anne Francis was the only missing piece of that one. But yes, I love that movie so much.
All right. Next question is Arthur C. Clarke, Boris Vallejo, or Piers Anthony?
Oh my gosh, you're rattling off like three of the. I've talked to all of those guys. In fact, it was Piers Anthony is why I stayed on the show when I was invited by the then host before he had a co-host me, just to talk about stuff at random. He mentioned that he had Piers Anthony coming on next, and then Boris Vallejo because he couldn't pronounce it.
Vallejo. Okay.
And I said, "Oh my God." These two, you have these guys coming on? How? So I'm in for that one. Great, because Piers Anthony, I read everything that he had ever done. And just great. But if I had to pick my preference, I'm going to go with the 14-year-old Evo, who really, really liked that Boris Vallejo calendar a lot.
All right,
a lot.
Sounds good. All right, next question is high or low?
Right now, I'm not high, but I will be shortly. But prefer high. Yeah.
High. Okay. Why?
Because low means I'm not taking enough sertraline. So I'd rather be high than.
I laugh because I do too. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need to be more open about mental health in this country, and medication can really, really, really help.
It's fascinating you say that because the first time I actually turned on my camera was when I was experiencing severe anxiety, and I wanted to say to anyone out there that saw it, you're not alone. There's a face to anxiety. It's mine. It's yours. It's someone else. It's okay.
Yep.
It's okay.
It is. There's others medication, therapy, all these things work. They could really, your life, you do not have to suffer through it. You do not have to suffer through it. So,
yeah. All right. That was an amazing answer. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Next question is, what does an alternate universe Evo do?
So he is unshaven. So I am the mirror universe Evo. So this other guy is clean shaven is what I'm trying to say. Clean shaven, not unshaven, clean shaven, and incredibly nice to everybody. But I figure I'm the mirror universe style. So I've got,
you're the evil version. We got the evil version of Evo. Wow.
I think that's probably it.
All right. Well, I reached out to an alternate universe. I have an alternate universe phone here. It changes shape from week to week. So currently it looks like a red lemur, I think is what it is.
I think that's a lemur of some sort, right?
Yeah. And when I reached out to that universe, he said that he is a Hall of Famer. Oh, sorry. I read that wrong. He's a hallway framer.
Yes.
He hangs up picture frames in hallways, and that's just what he does.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that. I got a friend here in town who's a retired teacher, and guess what he does now? Hangs pictures. Seriously, he works for somebody, and they hang pictures.
They just hang pictures?
Hospitals and doctors' offices. That's what they do. So, and he's just that's it.
They
pay him under the table. I didn't know it was a thing either, right? But
I mean, someone has to hang all that, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. So, it's kind of
all right. Well, next question is hardcover, paperback, or audiobook?
Audiobook. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I listen to an obscene amount. Audio fiction is kind of my passion. It's what I love to listen to, and where I spend more time, I think, doing that than anything else. So yeah, I am always been a fan of audio. And certainly especially when it comes to fiction, I like listening to it. So yeah,
I'm just an old man. I can't get into the e-books because I just love a hardcover paper book in my hands.
I mean, the good news is my wife has a library of banned books so that we keep, and those are hardcovers. So every time we hear of she hears about a book that has been banned, it is over there. So I read those. I have a Books BOOX ebook reader that I read that usually every night, and I listen to a whole lot of audio fiction, and a lot of that is just simply an audio book or a fully dramatized thing too. So all of I will consume all of the content.
So I'm trying to remember. There was a saying. Someone, I can't remember who it was, and I can't remember the saying, something like, if a book is banned, immediately run out and get it because there's stuff in there that they don't want you to know.
Exactly right. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. That is incredibly true. So yeah. And I've been making my way back through some of the old stuff. Like I never read, what was it I read just the other day, honey? Not Catcher in the Rye. What was it, Catcher in the Rye? No. I don't remember, but I've been going through some of these old classics that I never read when I was a kid for whatever reason. We didn't have to. So catching up on all those. And I listen and I read 1984 and Animal Farm at least once a year.
Dude, I've started 1984 and I can't. It's too close to reality right now. It's frightening.
Yeah,
I get about halfway through and I'm like, nope, yeah. I'm done.
I understand. There's a lot there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. All right, last question, as usual, will be sent to Evo telepathically because it's, so much information. Take your time, and when you're ready, you respond. I'll send it whenever you're ready to.
Go.
Your telepathic receptor. Okay.
Let's go. I'm ready.
There it is. Take your time.
Yeah, I didn't know her. I really didn't.
Are you sure?
I had no idea. Nope. Didn't even know her. Nope.
Wow.
Wasn't me.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, congratulations. You got every answer, either correct or incorrect. Good job.
Yay.
Unfortunately, we were attempting to get you writing Podcasting for Dummies, signed by the original author, but we found out that guy was a real dummy, and instead the prize was this incredible experience on Fireside Fedi.
Hey, you know what? As a consolation prize, I'll take it. Not bad.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed being here. I know I did. This was amazing. Thank you so much.
You bet. I do enjoy it. So thank you very much for asking me to be here. And yeah, always a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. And thank you to everyone out there that's listening. Don't forget
Except that one guy. That one guy.
That one guy. Yeah. Get away.
Leaving those shitty comments. Stop that.
You know who you are. And I'm always like, is it me? No. But thank you to everyone out there that's listening. Keep doing what you're doing on the Fediverse. You guys are the reason that we do all of this. The reason the Fediverse works is because of the people. And we'll catch you on the next show. Have a good one.
Keep it weird. Bye.